Hello, and welcome to another TMDSAS office hour. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sulema, and I am the TMDSAS Support Coordinator. For those of you who have been joining us and have been tuning in into our weekly office hours, I know that you guys were in great hands for the last session with our director, Enrique Hasso. I was out on vacation, and I know that you guys were in great hands. Very knowledgeable. Of course, he's our director. So I know that he's been able to offer you guys some great advice, great answers on y'all's questions. So I was out. I hope that you guys have also been able to take some time to relax, enjoy your summer vacation with your friends, your family, taking trips. I know that for a lot of us, or for a lot of you guys tuning in, you've either started your next school semester or will be starting soon. So, yeah, I wish you guys all the best of luck. And Team of DCS Support would like to help you out by continuing to offer this platform so you guys can continue to address your questions here live. I know that the semester starting can be very hectic, very stressful. And that's just another thing that is added onto what you are already experiencing, which is a stressful cycle. And answering your questions is a way that we can offer some help. So I'll go ahead and start by sharing a link to our deadlines and important dates page. If you are a veterinary applicant, the TMDSAS veterinary application for EY 2024 will be due shortly here within the next month. So I'll go ahead and also link this page for dental, medical, and podiatry applicants as well. So this page is very helpful to kind of see the layout for the deadlines for dental applicants, if that's applicable to you, for medical, podiatry, and veterinary. So for veterinary applicants, that application will be due on Monday, September 18th. Sorry, every year they changed it, so I was so used to saying September 15th. So the deadline for this cycle is Monday, September 18th. Just know that your primary application is due. Your veterinary evaluations are also due on this date. So it's important that you get that submitted as soon as possible. Don't wait till the very last minute. We tend to have applicants who have waited till the last minute. And unfortunately, because there's so many veterinary applicants who are applying, sometimes there could be glitches that you will be experiencing or technical difficulties, and you need to get a hold of someone to help you out with that. So it's best not to wait to the very last minute. I know that that deadline isn't until September, but don't wait till the last minute. That is also the time of the year in which the veterinary schools receive the most applications all at once. And so, just to prevent any difficult issues or delays or issues that you may have, any questions addressed, it's best to submit that as soon as possible and not wait till the very last minute. And with that, I did want to mention that you don't need to have your evaluations submitted in order for you to submit your primary application. Remember that you don't need your letters of evaluation, or in this case for veterinary applicants, your evaluations in order to submit. You don't need those right away. You can always submit your primary application first, and then just make sure that you get your evaluation submitted as soon as possible. So don't let that prevent you from submitting your primary application. And then lastly, because I know that at this point in the cycle, a lot of applicants have already submitted their application, it's always very important to keep up to date with your application. So for those of you who have completed summer courses, make sure to go back into your application into college coursework. Change that NY grade to a letter grade, and that is the best way to update your grades and your information to the schools if your application has already been transmitted. Remember, we do not need transcripts at this time. So the best way to update the schools is by updating your grades, which you can do on your end. And lastly, I want to share the after submitting page so that way you guys can see the outline. It's not necessarily in a checklist format, but it does provide lots of information about what to expect after you submit your application. So, along with updating your grades, you want to make sure that you're keeping an eye out for any messages that you might see in your inbox, learning how to send those messages as well to communicate with TMDSAS regarding any changes that need to happen. We have information about where to find the status of your letters and your test score receipts, the PCR, what that is, what to look out for with the PCR, secondary applications, Casper if that's applicable to your school, and as well as the frequently asked questions after submission. So I'll go ahead and link that page below. All right, now see that we have a couple of questions in the chat. So you can always just go ahead and ask your questions in the chat. I will go through them one by one and I'll display them on the screen so that way everyone can see them and also learn from your question. So the first one we have is from L. Harrison. Hello and welcome back. Thank you. For the chronology of activity section, I have leadership and vet experience combined as well as others. Should I leave all on the list or remove duplicates and which ones? Great question. So I know that this part is always confusing for applicants because the rule of thumb is to make sure that you do not duplicate your activity entries. There are three exceptions to that rule, and so I will go to the application guide to refer to that. So the exceptions to those to the rule of entering your activity only once is if it applies for both healthcare and employment. So this is an activity that may be listed in both categories if the experience was both paid position and fits both under the healthcare and employment categories. And this is also applicable for those dental applicants who now have the dental experience category as well. If you have a activity that fits under dental and employment, you can also list the activity twice. And if you have an activity that would classify under, let's say, like community service and leadership. So any activity that results in a leadership role may be entered into both categories. And the thing with the leadership role is it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have the title of leadership or leader. Um, if you had an activity that resulted in any kind of situation in which you step up and took charge of something or just demonstrated that leadership skill that a lot of the schools are looking for in applicants, then you can also list that under leadership. So for the veterinary experience, it sounds like you have the animal experience and vet supervised. So yeah, if you do have any of those experiences that also resulted in that leadership position, then you can certainly list it in there as well. The thing with that is that you want to make sure that you don't copy and paste your description. So if you have your veterinary supervised and or animal experience, don't copy and paste that description onto your leadership. Make sure that in your leadership category, you only talk about the leadership aspect of that activity. So yeah, that would be the one where that's how you make that differentiation and making sure that it doesn't look like you just copy pasted and duplicated your activities everywhere. And I hope that makes sense, but if not, let me know and I am more than happy to clarify that for you. Okay, from Gladys7. Hello, I was wondering how to enter ongoing activities into the veterinary supervised experience as it doesn't let me put 2024 as a year. Great question. We get this a lot. I know it's a little tricky with their application system, but the thing to know is that for any activity that is current, is going to be well, let me go back into the application guide because we do have the dates on there so you can kind of differentiate the difference between a planned, and what an ongoing activity looks like. And just so you can follow along to what I'm looking at, I'm not making this up. I am looking at this on our website, so I will link the page below. So looking at when an activity is current versus planned, current activities have the start date um, in the past up until October 2023. And for planned activities, this is an activity that occurs um, for November 2023 through the end date in 2024, which is typically August, which is as far as the app will let you enter that 2024 date. So if you have an activity that overlaps that timeline, for example, you would have, like, let's say, a leadership role that started, let's say, January 2023, and it'll go through May 2024. So you're going to want to put that activity in both your current and your planned activities. So under current, you would put it from January 2023 through October 2023. And then in planned, you would put that activity under November 2023 through May 2024 to show that that activity is continuous. And because of our application system, that's the dates sections that you have, increments that you have to put it under. I hope that makes sense. If not, let me know. But we do have the application guide page that does list out those dates if you want to refer back to that. And again, it sounds like for ongoing activities, you would have to list it under both current and planned activities. And this goes for any of your activity categories. Question from Madison. Hi there. As a veterinary applicant, how far back can I enter hours? Great question. So there is a difference between veterinary applicants and the rest of the applicants. So for veterinary applicants, you can include activities prior to graduating high school. So your hours can go as far as back as your freshman year in high school. However, for dental and medical and podiatry applicants, you could only enter activities since you graduated high school. So you wouldn't be able to put hours um, before high school graduation. However, since you are a veterinary applicant, you can definitely enter your hours as far back as your freshman year in high school. And that information is also listed in the personal biography and activities page in the application guide if you want to look at that for a reference. Okay, next question. Do I need a letter or supporting documentation for my dual credit courses? Also, what should I do for a course where the number doesn't match my school's course list, but the subject matches? To address your first question, you don't necessarily need supporting documentation for dual credit courses. That's typically for AP credit. But with dual credit courses, those are typically taken at community colleges, and if not, the community college did give you the credit for that. So whenever you're entering your dual credit courses, you want to make sure that you're entering your courses exactly as they appear on that community college transcript, because they are the ones who gave you that dual credit. So you don't need supporting documentation. Just make sure that you have the official transcript from the community college to use as a reference to help you enter your courses in your application. And it is important that you use that community college transcript and not your main institution where it got transferred, because a lot of times that runs into some issues with our deficiencies because the course number doesn't match up with what's listed in the course listings for a community college, and just a hot mess. So yeah, just make sure that with dual credit courses you use the official transcript from the community college, not your main institution, and you don't need to submit that to us just yet for the support and documentation aspect of your question. For the second part, what should I do for a course where the number doesn't match my school's course list? Um, do the best you can with what's listed on your official transcript for your school. Enter the course number as it appears. If you're referring to the course area, you're not sure um, what to list for that. And let me go ahead and pull that page up. You can certainly use this page to help you kind of like code the course areas for those courses that perhaps are not on your course listings for your institution. But like you said, the subject matter is similar, so you can use this page to help you out. And just important to note that with course areas, you don't need to, those don't have to be 100% accurate. You just do the best you can with those. And during processing, our processing team will go through those, make sure everything is listed accurately. We'll make adjustments if needed, but you will not be penalized if those are incorrect upon submitting your application. Okay, the next question is if we have continuing education certifications for veterinary application, should we add them and where would it be appropriate? Great question. So, the important thing to note with your activities is that there's no right or wrong way to enter those activities in your categories. Schools, I promise you, the schools are not going through your activities and saying, oh, this one went into the wrong category. As long as you are able to justify why you put that activity into that category is what counts ultimately. Since you are the expert in your activity, you know why you listed it there. And depending on what you want to highlight from that, will definitely matter a lot into which category would be most applicable with your activity. So for this one, since it sounds like this is a certificate, um, my first guess would be that you could put it under um, non-academic recognition or academic recognition if this was part of like your program. Um, Either one of those, it doesn't really matter as long as you know best what you did, what the certification was for, and so kind of just knowing that information will help you figure out where to categorize it. And if you still have questions about how to categorize it, we do have go back into our YouTube channel. We do have the school panels with the veterinary schools. We hosted that last month or a couple of weeks ago, but they provided a lot of information as to what they want to see in those activities, information on how to list some of those, things to note about the evaluations. A lot of information was shared by the vet schools as to what they want to see on your application. So take a look at that. And of course, you can always look at the application guide activities page for guidance and a reference as well. Another question from Madison. Do I need to include any contact info in my activity description boxes other than the name slash company that is input? Um, So you don't have to put contact information in your descriptions. Know that your descriptions are limited to, I believe it's a 300 character count. So you want to make sure that that character count counts. So you don't have to put your contact information for your reference or the place where you, like a clinic where you shadowed. You don't have to put that information to see again to see what kind of information you should be putting in that description box and making it count. You can take a look at the session that we had with either the veterinary school panel or even the session that we hosted with Dr. Kellaway from the Long School of Medicine. I know that's medicine and not veterinary, but she does give a lot of helpful information as to what schools might want to see in your activities, what to put in the descriptions, how to format it, and what exactly they're looking for in those descriptions. So I think it's very useful to take a look at that as well if you kind of want some inspiration on what to enter in that. But again, you don't have to put contact or reference information in those descriptions. And do I need to do anything with my PCR? Yes. So the PCR is a document that is essentially your prescribed course work report. This is available after your application has been transmitted or sent to the schools. And this will give you an insight as to what courses counted towards which prerequisites, if you're deficient in any hours, um, and just kind of giving you like a glance as to what was included on for your prereqs. This is also what the schools look at. It is not the only page that they look at to make sure that you did complete those prerequisites. But for the PCR, it's essentially, um, yeah, just telling you if you have met the prerequisites, if you have any hour deficiencies, It will not include courses that count towards your BCPM or your science GPA. So just know that whenever you go into that report, don't expect to find those courses that count as other science. Don't expect to find your graduate courses. Graduate courses don't count towards prerequisites. Um, and you, of course, won't find any of the foreign, developmental, or audit courses on there. So, great question. The information about the PCR can be found on the link, and I will share it in the chat below. Okay, for the next question, also about activities. For academic honors such as scholarships, what are y'all looking for in the descriptions? I appreciate all your help with all my questions. No worries, Madison. That's what we're here for. Um, Again, with this academic, like for example, the scholarships and the descriptions, it will be up to you what you want to include for that description. Maybe you had a scholarship that was about community service. Maybe you want to list it in there, or you want to put it in your honor as in like your academic recognition. But ultimately, the descriptions is up to you what you want to list in there. And again, you can always refer to the session with Dr. Kellaway. She does answer this question, what they're looking for, how to format that. And since you're a veterinary applicant, you can also take a look at the veterinary schools panel because they also adjust what they want to see. Um, I don't remember from the top of my head what they mentioned, but I know that they are definitely a great resource, great source of information to get this accurate answer. Okay, so for the employment section for veterinary, we do input our jobs, even if the only jobs we had worked in was with animals. I read on the website to not do this. Okay, let me go back in there and just take a look at the section that you're referring to. And this is for veterinary. Okay. Okay, I found it. So for veterinary applicants, do not include any experience that you listed in veterinary, animal, or research experience. This should be non-animal care employment. Employment activities since beginning high school may be listed here. Okay, yes. So it looks like what the schools would like to see all your veterinary experience in one place. So in those two categories, veterinary supervised and animal experience. So if your only employment was with animals, um, then unfortunately, it sounds like that would be the only place where those two other categories is the only places that you can list this activity. If you wanted to make a mention in the description that it was also your job or employment, you can do that. Um, but yes, it looks like with this part of employment, if let's say that you worked at a restaurant, you can list it there since it didn't involve animals. And I guess the only other way that I can say that you can list that is if you only talked about the clinical aspect, if you were like at a clinic and you only did the admin side of things, maybe you can list it as such to make that differentiation between the employment and the veterinary aspect of it. But again, see if you can find that answer in the schools panel that we hosted with the veterinary schools, just to make sure. I'm sorry, I remember exactly what they said about this in regards to employment, as it did happen a couple weeks back. But definitely check that panel out. And if it wasn't answered there, feel free to message us in your TMDSAS application portal. That way we can have a team member take a look at that and help you out with that question. All right, so we have a question from Fernanda. Will I be able to update my planned activities after I have submitted my application? I plan on working during my gap year, but I am currently searching for jobs, so I can't really add to the section. Yeah, great question. Unfortunately, with the activity section, that is a section that cannot be changed after submitting your application. However, if the change is significant and you really want to address this with the schools, our recommendation is that you create a one-page addendum. This is a page, no specific format, but you can just take that with you to the interviews and share that information with the schools then, since you're not able to make any updates to that section after submission. So I want to go ahead and also include a link to the approved changes to um, your application after you submit, because certain sections cannot be changed after that. What I can remember right now is that for sure the activities, your essays cannot be changed after submitting. So make sure that you go through those, make sure that it's exactly what you wanted so that there's no errors later down the road, and unfortunately you can't change them. So I know that those are the two areas that cannot be changed after submitting, but definitely check out that link to see what is approved and what isn't. Okay, Gladys, thank you for your help in answering these. No problem. Try my best. When do we have to register for the, I believe you meant Casper test? Is that only unless we pass a first round of applications? Great question. Um, oh, yeah, and I see that you also clarified here, Casper. No worries. It's okay. I always make typos all the time. Okay, so for the Casper, only specific schools require it. So let me see what we have regarding veterinary schools. Okay, so it looks like Texas Tech School of Veterinary Medicine no longer requires a CASPER test for A&M. Let's see. Looks like we only have past information about the CASPER from a previous cycle. So I'm going to make a quick note to make sure that we update that information on our website. Okay. So, in this case, I would recommend that you take a look at the individual school's website. In this specific case, it looks like A&M is the only vet school that does require the Casper. So, go ahead and check out their website, see if they have any information about that. The vet schools are actually really good about laying out exactly what the application process looks like. So, I'm sure you'll be able to find the answer to that question in there. Alrighty. I have just written my essays and I made a reference to slash expanded on a couple of my activities that I mentioned in the activity section. Does that count as duplication? No, not at all. So in your essays, you're definitely welcome to talk about the activities that you participated in, as those could have influenced your decision for going into vet school, pursuing that career. So that doesn't count as duplicating your activities. Okay, let's see. Question from Bruce. Hi there. When will reporting be available again through the TMDSAS website? Thanks. Okay. I believe you're referring to the dashboard that we offer that has statistics from past application cycles for medical, dental, podiatry, and veterinary schools. Great question. We are still working on updating that information so it is accurate and helpful for our audience, including our applicants. So thank you for being patient. Just be on the lookout for that. Because we have been getting a lot of questions about the dashboard, I'm sure that our team will be able to make an announcement when that is once again available on our website. Well, it looks like I reached the end of the questions. You guys have been asking great questions. It looks like a lot of y'all are applying for veterinary schools. And so I did want to invite you guys to keep coming to office hours. Every week we host them on Tuesdays, so you can ask your questions, get those out of the way, submit your applications, and not worry about submitting it to the very last second. We do have a specific office hour that is coming up that is specific for veterinary questions. So tell your friends, tell anyone who you know that is also applying to veterinary school. That office hour will be on, let's see, September 12th, at the same time, 1 p.m. Central Time. Since that is the office hour session that is hosted right before the deadline, which is Monday, November, not November, Monday, September 18th. So definitely keep coming to office hours, ask your questions. That session will be specifically for veterinary applicants, so just make sure that you keep tuning in. And if you have any questions in the meantime, you can always send us a message in your TMDSAS application portal, and know that those responses can take up to 2 business days. We do have a lot of applicants that are applying, and in order to be fair to everyone, that's the typical turnaround time that it takes to get back to answering your questions. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Good luck. Good luck on starting your semester. If you have or haven't started your semester, I wish you all the best of luck, and of course, the best of luck in this application cycle. So thank you, everyone. Bye.